Let's start with where you're from.
Calcutta.
Which part?
I'm adopted, I'm not really Indian. I'm starting to remember.
Saroo, you're a beautiful boy.
We're very proud of you, son.
A life I'd forgotten.
You okay?
I had another family. A mother. A brother. I can still see their faces.
What happened?
इधर जा मत मैं कल का काम निपट के आ जाऊंगा
गुड्डू गुड्डू
I have to find my way back home.
How long were you on the train?
A couple of days.
Couple of days.
It would take a lifetime to search all the stations in India.
Do you have any idea what it's like? How every day my real brother screams my name.
I always thought that I could keep this family together. I need you, Saroo. What if you do find home and they're not even there? And you just keep searching?
I don't have a choice.
What was she like?
Beautiful. Every night I imagine that I'm walking those streets home, and I know every single step of the way. And I whisper in her ear, I'm here.
Let's start with where you're from.
Calcutta.
Which part?
I'm adopted, I'm not really Indian.
Live here. That was nice.
We love movies. We live and breathe movies.
Thank you, Toronto Film Festival. It is a wonderful, wonderful place to come as a filmmaker.
I love the movie. If you want to talk about it after, I'll be walking around, probably around Chinatown or whatever.
Enjoy the film, guys, and thank you again, and thank you for having us. It's so great to be in my home country of Canada. Thank you, thank you.
Moderator for today is Eric Kohanek, and it's now my pleasure to welcome the director, producers, screenwriter, and members of the cast for Lion.
Well, good morning, and thank you all for being here for the press conference for Lion, an emotion-filled journey of a young man's quest to reconnect with his past. Lion is a TIFF special presentation. It had its world premiere last night at the Princess of Wales Theatre. With us today, I'm very thrilled to introduce producers, director, screenwriter, cast members. So sitting to my left is Emil Sherman, one of the film's producers. Next to Emil is Luke Davies, the screenwriter of the film. Next to Luke, we have David Wenham, who plays the part of John Brierley, the adoptive father of Saroo. Next to David, we have Nicole Kidman, who plays the role of Sue Brierley, the adoptive mother of Saroo. Next to Nicole, we have Garth Davis, the director of the film. Next to Garth, we have Dev Patel, who takes on the role of the adult version of Saroo. Next to Dev, we have Rooney Mara, who plays the part of Lucy, who is Saroo's girlfriend. Next to Rooney, we have Priyanka Bose, who plays the part of Kamla, Saroo's mom. And last but certainly not least, we have Ian Canning, another one of the producers of the film. If you have any questions, please stick up your hands. We have mic runners who will bring you a mic. I'll start things off by, actually, Luke, I'll throw one to you and ask you about the story that Saroo wrote and adapting that to a screenplay and the whole process of turning this into a film.
Well, Emil came to me and said, "Did you hear about this story?" And I had just that week heard about it. He gave me the book. I read the book and I was instantly entranced by the way it was a kind of mythic fable about reunification with the lost mother. A story that goes back to the earliest origins of human emotion, really. And I said straight away, I'm on board, I'm in. I want to try and tackle this and see if we can turn it into, see what we can do with it.
Well, Garth, at what point did you come on board? You're very well known as a commercial director. You've done television. This is your first feature film, and it's quite an achievement. How did you come on board? And I know that there's a connection between the producers and you from previous projects?
It's all their fault, basically. I mean, we were at Sundance Film Festival, and the producers, Ian and Emil, had read the article, and they just thought it was very me. And they said, "Hey, Garth, we think we've got this story you might like." And I read it, and they were right. I just completely fell in love with the story. Hence started this whole journey, really.
Great. We have a question down here in the middle.
Hello, Juan Carlos Garcia from Mexico City. I have two-part question. One is for Mrs. Kidman and Mr. De Patel. In Latin America, there are some places that there is a very big controversy about adoption of gay people. I would like to know, what do you think about that? Because for what I see in the film, what is most important is love for the children, that being gay or straight or whatever. What do you think of that?
I think adoption's a beautiful thing, you know. To be able to give someone a second chance at life it doesn't matter, you know, what preference you have in life or what color your skin is. You know, in fact, when we were doing research for the characters, what was it? I went to the place where he was actually adopted. Isa. Yeah, Isa, and I was talking to the people there, and like a majority of the children that are adopted from this specific place are severely disabled children. And you know, they mostly go to America or Australia, and I was just, you know, astounded by that fact that someone, you know, would take that into their lives and want to give someone, you know, such a great life and an opportunity, and you know, I think it's just beautiful in every way, really.
Yeah, I mean, for a child to be loved and to grow up in a family with love is the most important thing, and however that family comes together, it comes together, but you obviously want the child to have pure, beautiful love, which is what Sue was able to offer both her boys, and I think that's probably the thing that I most related to, is that she had this unconditional love for her children and still has, and she's just a beautiful, her essence is very beautiful.
A specific moment when your character smells and he starts to remember with the food. I would like to know which is the meal or the food that takes you back to your childhood.
That's a good question. Am I starting? Man, it's got to be baked beans on toast, man. Yeah, I love a good baked beans on toast. Lots of cheese grated on top. Anyway, sorry. Yeah.
Anyone else?
Vegemite on toast.
Yeah, you can't be Vegemite.
Nicole,
Kraft macaroni and cheese.
And in India, it's, you have a sweet tooth, so it's a lot of sweets. And so there are these laddus. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
how about you, David?
I'm going to go with Nicole. I'm Australian. I'm going to go Vegemite on toast as well.
Nicole, did you get a chance to meet the real Sue and talk to her? Can you talk a bit about what that was like? And
I was so lucky because when Garth said, we're interested in you playing this role, I said, would she be willing to meet me? Would Sue be willing to? And she was more than willing. She actually flew to Sydney, and we spent a day together just talking, and we just clicked. She's a very, very gentle, compassionate woman, and she's been very involved with the film. So I got to know her very well, and we email, and her family, and she still lives in they still live in Hobart. So, but I hope that as we promote the film more, people get to meet them and meet the real family, because they're just lovely, very special people.
And you, David, did you get to meet the family as well?
Yeah, I did. One of the great things that Garth organised was not long before he started shooting. Garth brought the cast and their real life, the people they were playing, together for a barbecue at the place where Garth was staying on the beach. And it was a really beautiful time whereby we could just, as a group, get together and know each other, but also one-on-one sort of exchange stories and get sort of more of a insight into those really, really, really good people.
Garth, I wonder if you could talk a bit about the casting process of this. How did you assemble it? Who was first? And how did you put it all together? And also talk a bit about Sonny Pawar, who plays the young.
He was the first cab off the rank, really, because finding a child of that age to act is a very complicated process. So we had to start that very early on. We also had to get visas for this child as well into Australia, which is no mean feat. So it was very sobering to have a 5-year-old as a centre of the story for half the movie. So, we put a lot of resources into that, and we didn't take it lightly. So we did a very extensive search all over India, pretty much, and just did a lot of hard work, a lot of workshopping, and eventually we found him. The kids in India are just staggering. They just have this spirit that's so infectious, and I don't know, it's even to this day I'm kind of really grateful to have had that experience with them.
And with the adult members of the cast, how did you assemble that, and how long a process was that for you?
Well, I mean, it was pretty much a traditional kind of casting process, but what I found is that people just drew themselves to the material. It just became quite obvious who was right, and there was a lot of serendipity. So it was just one of those things. I mean, Dev rocked up very early when Luke and I were still scribbling out the arc of the story. He rocked up and, kind of barged into the living room. He was like really excited about this story, wanted to be a part of it. So it was just one of those stories that a lot of people felt passionate about and really wanted to be in on. So the story kind of drew everyone into it, really.
Question down front here.
Hi, Thea Winter for Latin America. I have a question for Nicole. How much it hits home a story like this when you are also a mother with adopted children, and what could you say for other people to follow your good example?
How much of the story is,
Hits home, like having...
Hits home. Yeah, of course, that would have been the thing that I viscerally reacted to, I think, being a mother of adopted children. But I think, for me, this is a film about the power of mothers, whichever form they come in, whether they're biological, adoptive, and the need for, as I said to the real Saroo, I said, you have 2 mothers, lucky boy. And I think when you have good love like that, you really flourish, and however it comes your way is how it comes, but it's very, very emotional for me, obviously. And I love how when Dev says to me in the scene, he says, you know, you could have had children of your own, and you couldn't have children of your own. And she says, no, I could have children of my own. I wanted you. And that's incredibly powerful. And I find that, and people are sort of shocked by that. But that's what Sue felt. That was her vision, and everything in that speech, right, Garth, is what she did have that vision. It's all what she said.
Did you ever have those kind of conversations with your kids?
I mean, I wouldn't discuss that here, but yeah.
I wonder if you could talk about, I gather you met Saroo too and talked to him extensively. It's a very emotional journey throughout the film. What did he relay to you that was sort of the, you know, light over your head sort of turning point that you knew what the emotional core of this story was?
I mean, there wasn't really a singular light bulb moment. You know, I think what I got from Saroo and the family in general is they're a group of survivors, all of them. You know, they've been through so much. You know, little Saroo's been through so much adversity. He's had to bear on his little shoulders, and you know, they were just so open with us. You know, allowed us into their home. You know, Sue and John were showing us photographs. And, you know, for a big Hollywood film set to rock up to little, you know, Hobart in Tasmania, and for them to embrace us like they did, you know, they really are just this beautiful molecule of love. And Saroo, you know, is, you know, an absolute kind of triumph of a person. You know, he's so confident, and he's incredibly talkative, and you know, he again is the epiphany of this person that's really flourished and survived in a spectacular way, you know.
Rooney, I wonder if you could talk about how you came to the film and talk a bit about Lucy's devotion to Saroo, which is really inspiring throughout the rocky path that she has at times with him.
Yeah, I came to the script in a very similar way to everyone else. I read it and just it was something I really wanted to be a part of. It's just such an incredible story, and then I spoke with Garth, and I really wanted to work with him, and sorry, what was the second part?
And Lucy's devotion to the character, what was it about her that really struck you and made you really want to jump into it?
It was exactly that. She was so devoted to him and supportive, and that's really what I wanted to be. That's really what I felt like. I don't know what I'm trying to say. I'm so sorry.
No, that's all right. She's so devoted to it. Her path is an interesting one that comes and goes throughout Saroo's existence. And what did you tap into?
For me, it was less about the character and more about the supporting the overall story, and that's really what my role was to be supportive to Saroo and to Dev.
Likewise, she was amazing. Yeah.
All right, Garth, can you talk a bit about the transition to going from television to your first feature film? How do you approach it differently? Is it different, or how different is it?
I think it's just more like a marathon. But also, I think you get to explore an emotion. You get to kind of deal with the emotional tapestry of something over a longer break. So I loved it. It was really wonderful to have a kind of concise beginning and end. It was a really interesting experience.
Now, was it your work on Top of the Lake that sort of inspired you, that you wanted to go for something on the big screen?
I've always wanted to make a movie, but I had a family, and you know, it just the timing was right, and the story had to be right. I had to feel like I could bring something to it, and I felt passionate about it. So it's all about timing and things lining up. So this just seemed to be the one that I felt good about.
We have another question over here.
Hi there, I'm Sherry Block with Bell Media. My question is for Dev. Hi, I'm right here. Hi. I heard you say on the red carpet last night that making this movie was a life-changing experience for you. I wondered if you could expand a bit on that, about why, and maybe some of the other cast members could speak to whether it was for them as well.
Yeah, Garth changed my life, basically. There's no two ways about it. It kind of, I think I was at a point in my life where I was ready, and, he came in and he's so generous of spirit, and he's someone that you just, when you wake up at 4 a.m. and you're going to set, and if you don't have it in you for yourself, you look at his face and you'll want to do it for him, But the role, unlike anything I've ever done, really, it's a very introspective experience. The whole filming was, and it was still. And as a person, I'm a very fidgety, kind of awkward human being. So to be able to be that exposed, emotionally, it takes a great filmmaker to do that, and obviously a great script and everything. And I knew going into it, roles like this don't land in your lap every so often. And it was the way he meandered us through this auditioning, the audition through to the rehearsals. As soon as I got the role, he's like, okay, you're gonna have to put on some weight, grow some hair, and hit the gym and all that kind of stuff. And it was one of the most nourishing experiences I've really had of my life.
Hello. Hi, David Friend from the Canadian Press. This question's for Dev. Watching the movie, I couldn't help but draw some parallels between this and Slumdog as well, because obviously that was a pop culture phenomenon and that sort of propelled the plot line. And with Lion, it's sort of a tech phenomenon. I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about how that movie sort of exploded at TIFF. I guess it was like 8 years ago now. Have you been thinking about that at all, where you're here again with another movie that's getting a lot of buzz over the past 24 hours?
It's really easy to compare it to Slumdog when you're dealing with a young boy in a situation of poverty in the beginning. But apart from that, thematically and tonally, the films are completely different. Slumdog has a kind of frenetic energy about it and a pacing, and this film is a sweeping story. With these two pillars on each end, played by Priyanka and Nicole. It's a mothers and sons story. And, for me personally as a performer, what was exciting is that I'm really playing more an Aussie than an Indian. He goes back to that country like an alien, can't speak the language, and it's about discovering his roots, and finding home. But, in terms of Toronto, it's really been special. I keep saying it, but I rocked up here with Slumdog in my school shoes and a borrowed suit, and it's so nice to be back here with a bit of facial hair and and with this, yeah.
Sort of follow up on that, Nicole, you've been at the Toronto Film Festival a number of times. What is it about the Toronto Film Festival that appeals to you and to the industry? What do you think?
I just think festivals are so important right now because it's very hard for films to be discovered. We need all the help we can get for smaller films and films that are not obviously big studio films or superhero movies. So we're very fortunate to have the festivals to launch them, and that's why I always try to show up and be involved. And my career has been made through small films being discovered at festivals, be they Toronto or Cannes or Venice or Sundance. That's been very much the launching pad for so many of the movies I make.
Rooney, this is not the only film at this festival that you're in. You're in two others as well. You want to talk about your experience so far at the festival, and how does it feel to be here?
It feels amazing to be here with this film. I feel very proud to be a part of this film, and to be here with 3 films is, I feel very overwhelmed by it.
You're also in Una and the Secret Scripture,
yes,
correct?
Yes. And I shot them kind of all over the place, and they're all colliding now here. But, yeah.
Priyanka, I don't want you to feel left out. So let's talk about the other pillar in Saroo's life, his birth mother. Can you talk about preparing for that role and what you did and the research you did and really the filming process for you?
So it was exactly the same. Garth made sure that I met Saroo, and I had so many questions. It was incredible. And he shared some really amazing, intimate things about him growing up and on the streets and finding money, and now him being an Australian boy, and every time he goes somewhere, he finds money all the time. And that was incredible. And then in Madhya Pradesh, when I met Garth in Australia, he also showed me colors. It was almost like an LSD trip, he works with colors, and I had to dream because I'm embodying a spirit. And this is, we all have a sense of loss and despair, and this was all of that, and it was also about survival. So I needed to experience that in, and I had to listen to him. And so he showed me colors, and I dreamt of her, and I dreamt of him, and that was beautiful. And when I met her, it was incredible because we barely talked, but because she's really strong. And when she opened, she lets you in for those 5 seconds, and then and you feel it. And it's the frequency I'm talking about. It's just, I'm overwhelmed right now just talking about, because it was really intense. It was beautiful. Yeah. So.
We have a question over here.
Italy, grazie, Corriere della Sera, to the director. This is a very emotional movie, but with an happy end, a double happy end for two families. But at the end of the movie, we understand there are thousands of children lost without a future. You sure are more than me into this problem. Can you tell me what is happening to all the other? Connecting this problem to the movie will be helpful for many people.
Well, I think what this film does is just brings all those issues into the conversation, not just about, the challenges of adopting children. In some of these countries, it's difficult to do. Also, the difficulties of families, kind of adopting children with these pasts as well, and the complexities of that. And I don't know, I think when I was making the movie and kind of absorbing myself in the story, I became much more aware than I was about, the plight of these children. Right now there's so many children in need. So I'm still trying to kind of digest what all that means, but it really was a visceral experience for me, kind of uncovering all of that. And, going to, I went to the outskirts of Lilla, I went to a lot of these places, and I don't know, it's kind of changed my life. So I don't know, I hope this is one step towards some sort of dialogue where we can have a meaningful, conversation, hopefully.
At the end of the film, there is a reference that the film is working with a charitable organization to bring greater attention to this. Maybe Ian and Emil, you may want to talk to this, or Garth as well. Exactly what's being done, what's involved.
Yeah, we're sort of finalising plans, but I think for us, it's how can we, in the first instance, look at within India and within, those lost children and children in peril and in need, within India. But I think also wider, in the sense this is a global film that's brought everyone together, and sort of how, individually in each territory, how that can span out. But we're sort of finalising plans now to make sure that anyone who's affected by the film can be channeled and do their bit. No, that's
that's it. We have a question back there.
Hi, David Friend from the Canadian Press. I'm gonna throw another one over there. This one's for Nicole, and I guess the other actors, you can weigh in as well. I've been asking actors about roles in the past that they've turned down, they kind of wish that they hadn't in retrospect, and I was wondering if you could all give me your take. Is there something that you said no to that you really wish you hadn't, and why?
I think that roles, of course, there's things you go, if I had have played that, where would my life be? That's life, isn't it? If I had have done this, if I had have done that. And I actually think roles come to you at times and you miss out on certain ones, you get given certain ones, and it's just the journey, isn't it? And you're meant to play certain things, and if you're meant to, if it's meant to be, then it kind of just happens. So if anything has too much against it, I tend to just walk away. I really feel that, and that's through just a lifetime of playing so many roles, and I suppose that's just getting older, isn't it? Understanding that things happen when they're meant to happen. Roles come to you, some don't, and that's just the way it is. And enjoy, be happy. Keep it simple.
Want to chime in? Garth, just harking back to something Priyanka said before about colors. I wonder if you can talk a bit about the visual aspect of the film. There's a lot of color in it. There are also fantastic aerial shots that obviously emulate the Google Earth feel, which we don't realize until later in the movie why those shots are there. But talk a bit about how you planned the visual look of the film.
Well, I mean, I always work from the inside out, but one of the things that really struck me was Saroo told me that every night he would imagine himself kind of going to India, walking those streets home. He remembers everything, going into that little house, finding his mother there, whispering in her ear, "I'm here," just to let her know he's alive. So for me, it was almost like an astral projection, like an out-of-body experience. So I saw there a lot of rhymes with his kind of psychic connection to his mother and Google Earth. I just saw this kind of beautiful rhyme. It's kind of like a poem. So basically, everything in the film came from a real place or came from an emotional place. So everything was very considered. And also just how, I don't know, just even that Google moment where he finds the bridge. I mean, the audience have experienced that bridge in Howrah in Calcutta, and just how simply by finding an image on a computer can just trigger so many emotional experiences. So I don't know, it was just, I don't even quite understand it completely, but it's just such an interesting alchemy.
We have a question back there, and then down front.
Hi, I'm Indira Kannan, Business Standard in India. I have a question for Dev Patel. You've obviously shot in India for so many of your films now. I'm just wondering if you observed any changes in your experiences of shooting in India since Slumdog, and if you can recall any particularly memorable experiences of shooting in India for Lion. Thanks.
Yeah, I think this is like my 5th film I've shot in India. It's weird because growing up in school, I spent most of my existence in school trying to shun my heritage, because, to avoid getting beaten up or bullied and just to fit in. And then I kind of discovered India, Bombay, this city with Danny Boyle for Slumdog, and I was completely just struck by it like lightning. And it's just so enthralling to me to go back, and it sounds so cliche, but I understand myself and where I come from more and more, and that's something that I could feel in Saroo's character in a way too. We're kind of products of 2 different worlds. But working in India is just, it's beautifully chaotic, and everything's colliding and contrasting and juxtaposing, and each camera comes with 10 people, and it's just madness. It's beautiful. And, you've got all these people, you look around on set, and there's all these people, working together to create this one moment. And you truly feel alive. It's like the most incredible canvas to shoot on, to capture on film. So I'm really lucky that I can keep going back there and, telling stories like this, really.
Garth, maybe you want to chime in on that, the locations, finding locations and then deciding, to work among the chaos there or to reflect the chaos there. Talk a bit about that.
I love difficult locations. It's just, I don't know, I kind of enjoy it. Look, for me, it was really important that we kind of captured India. I mean, a lot of movies, I think, romanticize India. They go and shoot in easy places. They don't have the kind of courage to get it on screen. So I was really determined to bring audiences into India in a way they'd maybe never have been. So I found that very exciting. And, there was even a scene where Saroo is being, chased by these child snatchers, and it happens at like 2, 3 a.m. in the morning, and he kind of runs out onto the Howrah Bridge, and it's all empty. I mean, when I arrived in Calcutta very late at night, I realised all the streets were empty. So like just that understanding, I go, well, we can really see the bridge if it's 2 in the morning, you know, and so that's kind of how I worked, and I think how we got the most out of India.
Question down front here.
Nicholas Villius, Edmonton Senior. I was struck by the power of the interrelationships between the characters, and I thought that was just came across so well. And I know that the scriptwriter had a lot to do with this, but I'm sure the director had some way of bringing all these marvelous actors together and relating them one to the other. So could you please explain how you did it?
Well, for me it was, I mean, we kind of discovered that his life was like a mirror. You know, he had his past family and his present family. And I think when Saroo decides to kind of search and becomes obsessed, you start to see the tug-of-war between a choice, you know, so choosing the past, you sacrifice the present. So I suppose I feel like all the characters were so loving and connected that by Saroo's kind of decision to choose a past, I think it started to kind of affect that alchemy and those relationships. But also like with Lucy, Lucy was kind of, in many ways, she kind of brought this tactility back to his life. Like he had, like you'll notice, the way they were very playful on the streets, a little bit like how he was with his brother. They're very tactile together in the nightclubs, in bed. So there was this kind of texture that was also part of the awakening. It wasn't just Google Earth, it was everything. It was him being in Melbourne, the busy streets. So everything was very considered, and I think that's why you feel something, you feel those connections. And also with Sue, you know, she had this vision that in many ways that this was all a part of something that was predetermined. And so all of her performances are kind of, you know, coming from that place. So there's something kind of unusual about all of her earlier performances, which is revealed later. So yeah, we went really deep, I suppose, in understanding all of the characters' connections.
And apart from the barbecue, were there other ways of getting the chemistry in place? Anyone want to talk about that?
There's lots of things. I made these guys do crazy things. I mean, well, one of the exercises I did with Lucy and Saroo was we rolled out this really large pieces of butcher's paper, and they had to trace each other. They had to lie on the paper and trace each other. And then they basically sat opposite this, and they had to paint in each other. So Lucy had to paint in Saroo, and Saroo had to paint in Lucy. And it was really interesting to see them build this relationship as they're doing it. And Saroo paints this kind of almost auric, beautiful, colourful picture of Lucy, and Lucy paints this kind of dark picture of Saroo. But what was really interesting is at the end, I said, let's look at your hands. And Saroo had like bits of colour. And then Lucy had these dark hands. And I said, well, this is what you're holding in the relationship. So there's just these really kind of, I don't know, we do weird things, but it was...
See that? He does that all the time.
But, you know, that's better than kind of, you know, rehearsing the scenes. It was just trying to make these, I don't know, these kind of deep connections, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, even Nicole had painting lessons, even though we just see, you know, it's just one little moment. But I don't know, I just thought it was important. You loved it, didn't you?
I did. I've not painted since.
Question down front again.
The movie shows this emotional journey of a kid, you know, leaving his own country. And Nicole, you play the mother, you know, in your own country, in your home. So my question is, what do you remember from that day when you left Australia to Hollywood? That day on the plane, looking out the window.
It wasn't like that. I think I was sort of 1 foot in, 1 foot out, coming home, going back. I was always, and I think that's probably just my life. I feel very international anyway. I feel like I'm part of the world, which is why I seek out directors and stories and people all over the world. And I'm lucky to be of the generation where that's possible, because actors a few generations ago didn't have that. So I'm an Australian actor who gets to work globally, and I get to morph into many different nationalities and places and people. And that's just glorious, and it's given me such an extraordinary life, and I've seen pretty much all of the world because of that. And now having children and being able to show them the world in the same way, it's a very, very blessed life. But I wasn't on a plane looking out the window, heading off to Hollywood. No. I don't even know, I always say this, I'm not even sure what Hollywood is anymore, because I don't think there is a Hollywood. There's, you know, we're all scattered around the world and we make films all around the world, and Hollywood pretty much is of some bygone era now, which is sad in a way, but at the same time, you know, I would say the world is Hollywood now. We get to do stories everywhere and tell stories everywhere, and it's extraordinary.
Nicole, is that part of what inspired you to become a producer as well on certain projects, just because of your experience around the world?
As a woman, you say, I want to have a chance and to work with writers and directors and give them opportunities. And I've been fortunate in the sense that a lot of people have given me things and I've gone, okay, how do I go and raise money for this? So to have different places to express myself is really is a really great thing to have. And having done, say, Big Little Lies, which is what I produced recently with Reese Witherspoon, was a fantastic experience because there's 5 lead females in that, and all ages and all really, really extraordinary stories that span 7 hours, and that was great to be able. But it takes a lot of work producing. Right, Emil and Ian? So I can only dabble, really. It's, you know, occasionally I'll throw myself in, but it is an enormous task. They're the pros.
How much of an enormous task was it producing this film?
I mean, it's always it's a huge undertaking. It's 4 years of our life, and we do work across a number of projects, Ian and I. But you know, I think that relationship we have with the director and with the writer, and we have less direct connection with the cast. We leave that in Garth's hands, really. But it's an extraordinary relationship and experience for us, and I think it can really produce some great work if you feel like everybody is genuinely trying to make the same thing, and everyone holds, you know, slightly different tasks, and you cross over at the centre, and you just keep challenging each other and pushing each other to, you know, to make the greatest movie. And it's been a long process, the production, but in some ways this has all came together, and we made it. I think it's probably been 3 years from the beginning of the idea to today. So it's been wonderful working with Garth. We worked with him on Top of the Lake previously, and it's been a great, probably 6 years now working with Garth, and one more film to go, and more.
Yeah, it's truly incredible. But when when Saroo gives you the gift of his memoir, then it makes it all worthwhile, because you just know you've got to tell this incredible story. We worked with producer Andrew Fielder as well on the film, and it was you're trusted by this family and Saroo, and so everything else just becomes worthwhile, despite the early calls and late night calls with Emil.
We have time for just a couple more questions. Just one over here.
For me, the film has a very big heart on Sonny Pawar because of his performance. I would like to know if you are in touch with him, what he thinks about the film. And is he a real actor, or is he working in something else? Because I tried to Google it and I didn't find a lot of information about him.
He's just done another movie, hasn't he, with Demi Moore? Yeah, can you believe that? And Abhishek. Abhishek had made a movie before. I mean, 5-year-olds aren't actors, so he was definitely a non-actor. We do have our production company over there, iTopper, in regular contact with him, checking on his welfare. We've got things in place to kind of support him through school and all sorts of things. So they're really flourishing, I think, and still leading a kind of a normal life, which is important, not trying to kind of hero worship them or anything like that, keeping them kind of even. But it's very special, like when little Sonny came out to Australia. I was in the middle of a rehearsal with these guys, and he arrived, and he came in the door, and we just hugged. We hugged for like 10 minutes. You know, he'd had such a beautiful relationship. So I think everyone just had a very life-changing experience, including the kids.
Okay. If there are no more questions, actually, I just have one more. The real footage at the end of the film. At what point did you decide to throw that in there, and the photos at the end, and how did that come about?
Well, I mean, the main thing is to make sure that everyone knew that Nicole's wig was accurate, because you know, they're probably going, "Oh my gosh, look at that wig." I love it. It's BMX Bandits. It's all coming back. I love it.
And at what point did you include that footage? Did you shoot that before the film or after?
Well, no, that was part of 60 Minutes, which I was actually with that team very early on when the adoptive mother, Saroo Brierley, met the birth mother, Kamla. So I was actually there. It was amazing. I had a great relationship with the 60 Minutes team as well. So we just felt at the end of the film to kind of, you know, bring the real people into it was kind of important. And
literally from the first moment of Garth and I working with a whiteboard, we knew that we were going to use that footage at the end to give it an emotional kind of payoff and bring it into reality.
All right. Lion is a TIFF special presentation. There is another public screening Thursday night, again at the Princess of Wales Theatre, and it will hit theaters nationwide on November 25th. Thank you all for being here. Thanks for coming.